like thinking about it like that, because it does feel like, yeah, seeds have been germinating and now they're blooming. My name is Libita Sibungu and I'm a multidisciplinary artist and I live and work in Cornwall. I suppose this is what has been created over the last few years, is what I call an unruly relational living archive. And I suppose, yeah, growing up here, I always had a big dream of showing in Newlyn Art Gallery one day. One day, imagine having an exhibition here. And yeah, so that's kind of beautiful, I think, for my younger self. So it feels very poetic, beautiful, correct, right? That this is the time that I'm showing here, you know. So there's, you know, something of my experiences, you know, I speak about my personal familial history, and that is a route in to speak about wider cosmologies and politics and histories, and then also to open up a space of other imaginaries and futures. So yeah, as a, you know, mixed race person with Namibian, Zambezi heritage, and then on the other side, my Cornish and, you know, British heritage. I'm really interested in African diasporic experiences here, our history, Black British history being all of our history. The place that I'm in now, and also one of the places where I have roots and where I come from, to think about that vug, you know, that cavernous, crystallized space within a rock that perhaps once had a fossil in there. But, you know, it tells its own story. So I feel like that's kind of the holding space that speaks to ZED Love and speaks about this intergenerational journey of shape-shifting, of becoming. Yeah, so deep recovery into in-living memory into ZED Love, which I kind of love. It feels like something growing up and out. So ZED Love was in my notes, and it's the name of an ancestor that I dreamt. So it's not literally an ancestor I know of, but it was a type of birthing ancestral experience that felt so deep and meaningful that when I woke up, I felt a deep unblocking, a deep healing. So that's the energy that I wanted this show to really hold. Yeah, so that's where it comes from. Yeah, one of my earliest memories and photos is of me on Newlyn Green with my mum, and she's teaching me how to make rag rugs, you know, and I'm probably, like 2 or 3, and she's sewing rag rugs and I'm sitting next to her, handing her the pieces. This sense of belonging, being in a place, being in a family, being in a community, and then at the same time unbelonging, you know, being told, you know, you're not from here, where are you from? Never being placed with my family when I was with my family, you know, because they're white. So as a child, that kind of shapes you, you know, that shapes. So my relationship with Cornwall was complicated because of that, you know. But there's something about being in nature and certain places that really land me, and I feel right at home, this being one of them. Coming and settling, resettling back in West Penwith and Cornwall was a type of orientation around me as a mother, and then thinking about what creative practice is for me, was for me then, and that kind of shift of feeling a need to be in community, you know, after being separated in many ways. So yeah, I think that need and that reorientation led to me really realizing that I need to bring some people together. So that project, Deep Recovery, was really one of the seedlings that started to sprout, which was this kind of what I called at the time a sonic fragment, which was about a 12-minute audio sound piece, and then a series of photographs, but very small. So I got Arts Council funding, which was basically to keep growing this body of research, thinking about movement histories and futures, literally going out into the landscape, bringing up questions and thinking about the materiality as memory, so collecting materials from the earth, from the land, very kind of DIY field recordings. So there will be a series of drawings. Initially I thought it would be like 3 to 5. They've grown into 15. So again, blooming. I like these words, blooming and bursting. I feel like the whole exhibition is continually blooming and bursting and coalescing and converging and exploding. So these sites may be considered sacred. Some of them connect to granite specifically. Some of them are, burial sites. And, there's a lot of joy in them. I think there's something happening about shelter, about fugitive experiences. So I'm always thinking about these kind of multiple bodies. I'm thinking about the multiracial experience. I'm thinking about veins and cracks within rocks and where different things pull. To move beyond systems of categorization that come from colonial thought systems. When I was making the photograms, I was kind of, a part of it was very intuitive. So because it was a big experimental process at the size of this table, it meant that the way that I was holding the light to expose, I was doing in relation to my body. And I was holding them within my body. And then I was holding the light in the place where I was kind of imagining I wanted the shadows and the light to shoot. And then at the same time, the person that was assisting me, Lorna, was pressing play on a certain frequency that I'd asked to be played. So when I was hearing and feeling that low vibration, like in the body, let's say like 70 hertz, then it was kind of a short meditation on this is heart, and I'd hold the light there and then flash it. So because on these movements, these gatherings where we're moving through the landscape, sound is then present as this kind of way to recall a memory. I really like this almost like ready-made dialogue, finding voices within the environment, not so performative, and the seat that's at the center of this kind of bassy space, let's say, something between a votive deposit and a techno-fossil. The circular seat then has 2 very big sub-speakers in it. So actually, really, that circular seat is becoming a speaker in itself, a speaker box. So Neil Rose, essential to the making of this sound. So he's really designed the sound. I've given him parts from my archive, and then I've composed these vocal parts, but he's created this whole sound design, and we've been working on it together. So, these cyanotypes, there's huge, big pieces that I've made, which I suppose feel like veils. And they've been, exposed with light, so sunlight in Windhoek, Namibia. They're quite different for me in working with fabric, working with textiles. And it's kind of this patchwork. I'm thinking about these lost pages, and I suppose there's a decision, there's a tonal decision and a feeling about how they've been composed and have come together. And working with Sam Brown-Acanti on that, who's been sewing, he's a fashion designer, so been learning a lot about textiles and that material actually, which has been very new for me. So as a pair, they're called Wild Seed, and that is an ode to Octavia E. Butler, who wrote the book Wild Seed. Also the lead character, the protagonist within that first book, Anyanwu, who features quite a lot, the energy of Anyanwu within the exhibition. And I think really she is all of our mothers. So thinking about the oldest, the first mother that birthed all of us. So yeah, that feels really important, this idea of a wild seed or many wild seeds finding a place and rooting and growing. I'm curious. I think we all bring our own stories and experiences into any room that we go into, and the same with the gallery. So it's completely open to an interpretation. But I think there's something spiritual happening in the show. I think there's something about making visible the invisible whilst holding opacity. So I feel like the whole exhibition is this circuit, this feedback loop that keeps feeding into itself but growing these other gnarly, weird roots and rocks. So yeah, when I come to the studio, I generally put the kettle on, put the music on. So just coming out of the winter, so the fire is part of my little ritual, getting the fire going. I'll have a particular song or album that I'm into, so that's normally me setting the tone. And depending on what I've got going on, the day will flow from there. My beautiful studio is Prior Venice Street, so these are Prior Venice studios. And so, yeah, we're in Newlyn, and yeah, it's a beautiful walk. I suppose if I'm in the week, it will be dropping off my son to school, and then it's a really nice walk down through Newlyn and then up to the studio. And obviously we're right on the sea here, so I really enjoy that little walk, and yeah, I love Newlyn, it's this working fishing village. I always say it's kind of like this little corner that's got loads of different layers of people and cultures and classes, one on top of each other in this very small kind of little corner. So I think there's something interesting about how the work, the art, will continue to play inside of people as they leave and carry on about their day.